writer. At the legendary Second City Theater, appearing both in Chicago and Toronto. He wrote and produced the hit TV show WKRP in Cincinnati, co-starring as Kurt Devaney. Is it Devaney or Devaney?
Yeah, I got fired off that show. Don't talk about it.
New Arts series. He has appeared as an actor in 8 movies, including Club Paradise with Robin Williams, For the Boys with Bette Midler, and Analyze That with Robert De Niro and Billy Crystal. He co-wrote the hit comedy Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield, and co-wrote and co-directed the film Stealing Home, starring Jodie Foster and Mark Harmon. He's here tonight to tell you about how one goes about writing a script and moving onward, producing a film and carrying it out from soup to nuts. We'll give you Steve Cannon.
Yeah, okay. You have it? All right. So we are going to show a couple of scenes tonight, but I want to thank Dr. Miller for this opportunity. I was actually here last year and talked about dreams. See, this is what happens. Yeah. What is up near you? Okay. Okay. She loves to get focus, and that's important in show business. Okay. So I talked about dreams last year. And the truth of the matter is, it took me a long time to figure it out, but dreams are so wildly creative that over the decades of remembering them, recording them, I became a more creative person. And then when you add that on top of that the movies and dreams have similarities, think about it. They both take place in the dark, they compress time, they tell a story, they have special effects, they're in color, they're in black and white. They're very, very connected, and so it doesn't take a great leap to imagine that I would be drawn to this world of script writing, which is what I was, and to film. And like most of us, I grew up loving film, but I never imagined that I would ever be in it. But as it turned out, I've written 30 scripts, if you can believe it, and I've had 9 produced, which is fine. But by far, the movie we're going to talk about tonight is the most important in my career, and I'll tell you why. It was the first thing that I ever wrote. It was about my family, and that was really significant. It was about my dad, and it was about my really best friend as a child, who happened to be a few years older than I, and it was about her. And it became the first film that I ever directed. So there were a lot of firsts here that were kind of going on and were significant. Now, the analogy of filmmaking, I think, there are 2 kind of things that are obvious about what's it equivalent to, like doing a film. And one is obviously team sports. And it's like it's a team. When you make a movie, like Stealing Home, on a given day, there were 100 people on the set without the actors. Electricians, scripts, cinematographers, food services, all sorts of people. And at the same time, there is no way that you can come in, no matter how good the script is, if you're not surrounded by a really good team. And we had a really good team because the producer put the kind of people that we needed in place that would make sure the movie would go well. And who are those people? Well, the one job is the line producer. He's the guy that watches budget. He's the guy that figures out what we're shooting every day and making sure that we're not going over that budget. And in fact, he's finding ways to kind of hide money that in case we get into trouble, we can use later. We had a guy named Hank Moonjean who had done literally hundreds of films. A lot of there used to be an actor named Burt Reynolds that older people here will know. And he did all of his films, and he took care of the budget on this film, which was $6 million. Now we're spending $100,000 a day when you're shooting a film. So you need to have that guy in play. For a director, the next most important person is the cinematographer. He's the guy that you're working with and deciding what are the shots, what the movie's going to look like, and all that stuff. Big, big, important person. The casting person is huge, because you've got to get the right actors. If you write a brilliant movie and you have the wrong actor, and we've all seen that happen in movies, the movie's over. So you have to have really good casting. What else? You have to have really good sound engineer on top of the movie. Sound in movies is one of the areas that if you have a bad sound person, it can slow the whole production down a great deal. Now that'd be like a basketball team. That'd be like 4 or 5 people. If it was a baseball team, I would add then location managers, and I would locate food services, believe it or not, very important thing for morale. And I would add hair and makeup and maybe a few other jobs. In other words, it's a team effort. And if you got the right team and they're committed to your project, you have a chance to make something. If you have the wrong team and those you have the wrong people in those jobs, you're in trouble. All right, so the other analogy is war. Really making movies is you're in war. You're in war when you're writing a script with yourself about what it should be, or in my case, my partner Will Aldis. What should it be? Should we do this, that line? Should we take that out? Is that scene wrong? You're always in battle to try to get the best product. Then when you get it, and you're excited, and you finish the script, then you got to go out and sell it. And guess what? There are thousands of writers out there thinking the same thing. So you're in war against them. You're in war to try to get your movie to be sold before their movie is sold. And if your idea is anything similar, and that happened to be on a movie, I wrote a movie called Clifford with Martin Short, and it competed with another movie altogether that was coming out at the same time, and my producer got scared and said, I don't want to do it. So for 2 years we didn't make it because he was scared there was going to be another movie just like it. Well, you have to get your movie sold, and then you're in the war of making the movie. And the greatest enemy in making a movie is time. I had 40 days to shoot Stealing Home. It's about 105 pages. It's $100,000 a day. I cannot afford to not what we call make the day. Make the day means everything you're meant to do that day you get done. What if weather gets bad? You got to be thinking if it rains and it's an outdoor scene, where are you going to go? You better be shooting something, because you can't afford to waste it. And I'll tell you, when people will put up money, and this was a $6 million film, which was in those days, today it didn't seem that much, but in those days was a fair amount actually. When people are putting up money, they're looking at your dailies every single day to see if you're doing your job. And you know what? Movies get shut down. Directors get fired. It's real. So you need to be paying attention. Now, the last thing I want to say, and then I want to tell the story of Stealing Home, because Stealing Home really is a story. I didn't realize this until I talked about Stealing Home for the first time in Philadelphia last year. Haven't talked about it ever. And then I did, and as I was talking about it, I realized that the journey of Stealing Home has more twists and turns than a Stephen King novel. And the reality becomes that it's kind of a miracle it ever got made, is really the truth. But it did, and so I want to tell that story, but I also want to put this in a broader context, an educational one, because the discussion of leadership at this school is always being discussed. I know it's being discussed. And I've tried to figure out what is leadership on a movie. Well, if you're a director, you're making 100 decisions a day, and I think leadership is the ability to make creative choices to challenges when you're under pressure. When you're under pressure, you don't give in to the safe route. You give in to the one that is the most creative solution. And the more creative solutions you can do on a movie, the more that the process will work for you. It doesn't mean you're going to make a great movie or will be popular, but it means the process will be right. And if you start trying to be safe or too careful and afraid to take risks, you're not a leader in a movie. That's your job. And when I stood there the day that opening day with all the production crews there, all the stars, Mark Harmon, Jodie Foster, the cast, which included my wife Judith Kahn, and a lot of other wonderful people, Jonathan Silverman, Harold Ramis, and they all were gathered. And I stood up and I said the following to them, and I meant it from my heart. I meant it. I wasn't saying it. I said, you've come here for one reason only, this script. And I'm going to honor this script. And it can't get made well unless you are committed to it like I am. But that's what we're doing here. That's the only reason you're here. You're not here because of me. I've never directed a film. But I'm going to do everything I can to bring honor to this project. And that's what, to me, in that moment, I meant it. It's not because I was being a leader. It's because any other option was not going to be acceptable. Now let's talk about, let's get into this. And I'm going to show a couple of scenes. Stealing Home begins with an ending. It begins with me being fired off a show called Newhart. And I had been at Second Cities. I was an actor of Second Cities, an improvisational theater in Chicago. And if you ever go to Chicago, you must go there. It's such a fun evening. And I was lucky enough to do 4 years in Chicago, 2 in Chicago, 2 in Toronto. And then a whole group of us went out to LA to get work. And eventually I got on a show. And at first I was terrible. Really, honestly, on the show, I couldn't figure out how to do a sitcom, and I thought I'd be fired. But I learned how to do it, because I'd always done my own words, and now it's suddenly I'm doing the script of other people's words, and I'm not a good enough actor to do that. So I got worried about getting fired, but I didn't. Then I got better, and then I got pretty good, and then there became a creative problem between me and between the producer and the star of the show, and I got bored. And then when I was out, Judith was about to give birth to our second son, Billy, and we'd moved into a new house, and we had construction going on because I was counting on work. And I'm being fired, and when Bob Newhart called me and said, sorry about it, even though he had arranged for me to be fired, I said to him, I can't hear you, Bob. All the construction crew is building the house. I can't hear you. And we walked out of that, and this is such a showbiz thing, but it's a compliment to Judith, because I remember we were standing in our bedroom, and I said, I've been fired off this show. And she looked at me, and she said, something better will come. And in that moment, even thinking about it, that's such a showbiz thing, but it's true for anything. Every time a door shuts on you anywhere, maybe something else is going to come that's better. At the time it doesn't fit. Maybe you wanted to get into a certain college, you didn't. And then you'll look back years later and say, thank God I went to that college and didn't get in. You never know, and I think in this moment in show business, you always have to say something better is coming. That's just the way it is. And at the time we didn't know it, but here's what I did. I got my writer friend, we said, let's write a script, try to make some money. I actually thought we were done in show business. I came to teach here at Blair, but I thought, how many years later, like 12 years later, but I thought I'd be looking for another job right after that piece of news. So I said to my friend, let's write something, and we sat there and said, but what? And then we said, let's write something we know about. Okay, we know about baseball, we know about families, and let's also write about something we care about. And we said, care about? Yeah, it's something we care about. We're not going to get it made. It's not going to happen. So let's just write something that we want to write, we want to see. So we came up with the idea of Stealing Home, and then we went to every restaurant in town, because we didn't have an office, and we would write for 2 hours till they would throw us out. Then we go to their restaurant till they throw us out. To another one, circle back to the first one for tea, and then keep going down, and we were writing on legal pads, and we wrote this damn thing in 3 weeks, and then I remember I went to a typist, and had it typed up, and then handed it to an agent thinking that's the end of it, now I gotta go find work, and got a call and say, your script is sold. And when you sell a script in Hollywood, you don't actually sell it, you sell the option, which means the people that bought it optioned the script for 18 months, and they pay you a fee for that, and then they have to develop the script and get it made, and if they don't do it in 18 months, you're out. You can take your script and go somewhere else. It's called an option deal. And the people that bought it were just wonderful. They were Stanley Jaffe and Sherry Lansing. Both had been president of Paramount, so they were big hitters, and they loved the script, and it was like, oh my God. This movie business is so easy. I love the movie business. 3 weeks to write it, 2 weeks to sell it. I'm in these big offices. We're having a big lunch. I'm on the, here we are on the studio. We're at the studio. This is easy stuff. I'm done. 4 years later, we made the movie. And what happened was we started to write drafts. We actually had a director attached to it, which was a guy named Jonathan Demme, who was a wonderful man and a wonderful director, directed the movies Philadelphia and did the Silence of the Lamb, which later Jodie Foster won the Academy Award. And he was a terrific guy. He was actually on the rebound. He had done a movie that was a failure, and out there when you have a failure, you don't work for a while. And so he was attached, great guy, we wrote it. But then I ran into a conflict with the producer because he wanted us to write Stealing Home all about his son's friend who had died. And I was writing about my dad, who died when I was 16 years old, and all the things that happened in the summer we spent. And there was no way that was going to work. That became a conflict. Now the producer that loved Stealing Home suddenly was saying, we were on different pages, and so it didn't work. And for 18 months we were with him, and then he gave it up. I have to tell you something, another thing that's so funny. The key of writing in show business, this is why I always tell students, write things you care about. They'll never make what you write about, but they then find out you're a better writer, so then they hire you to do the junk and the crap that they want you to do. We had a meeting on Stealing Home with the president of Universal who complimented the movie, and then at the very end said, anyway, gentlemen, I wonder if you'd be interested in doing a I Dream of Jeannie with a Dolly Parton inside the bottle. And we thought we had gone insane. Everything about our movie was not commercial, it was not about that. And we realized then that that's the game in Hollywood. You show that you can write, and then they try to get you to write the movies that they want to make. So we got a new a new producer named Tom Mount, another wonderkind who had been the president of Universal at 28 years old, thank you very much, smart as smart can be, produced in a lot of the Roman Polanski movies, was a major player, but more importantly, his beautiful wife, Nikki Mount, was 6 feet tall, an executive for HBO, fell in love with the script Stealing Home. And Tom Mount, I really think, who's our producer, I think really did not like the movie, but he's trying to keep his marriage together. So he basically said, okay, darling, I'll option it. So we optioned it again. Here we go. More writing, more changing, everything. Now we're on, instead of Paramount, but now we're at Columbia. Now, one good thing that happened is one of my favorite all-time comedians is Richard Pryor. And Richard Pryor was on the Columbia set, and he was not well, and we got to meet him. And that was about the only good thing that came from this 18 months we were with Tom Mount on this experience. So here comes the risk I was talking about, leadership. My friend, my partner and I looked at one another and said, we've been on this movie for 2 years, it's going nowhere. Let's take all the drafts that we've written, make the best draft we can, and let's go in and say to the president of Columbia, you either going to make this movie with us directing this, or we're not going to make it. Big moment, right? And we went to our producer, and he said, okay. And I remember walking over to that meeting thinking this is going to be a really interesting meeting. And we got lucky because the man who was president of Columbia for 1 year before he got fired was a guy named David Putnam. And David Putnam was a man of taste. He had produced the movies Chariots of Fire, Academy Award, The Killing Fields. He really was a producer, and he was the head of a studio. And we walked in and said exactly to him what we just said. We've been on this movie. This is an important movie. It's about my family. We don't want to screw it up. We have a draft we love. We want to make this movie. We've done it for 2 years, but we want to direct it. And he looked at us and said, okay. He said, okay. If it hadn't been David Putnam, who happened to be a man of taste, who happened to like our script, there was no way he's going to say to 2 new guys, you can direct this movie. But suddenly now we had a go movie. Go movie, not a go movie, but we had a, okay, you can do it. Then we had to go get casting. And casting was, we got Jodie Foster. who was coming out of Yale University, wasn't the big star yet, had been a child star. She was the original Coppertone girl. And of course she was in Scorsese's film, what was that film? Taxi Driver. And she came in and interviewed and loved the movie because she loved the fact that it was an older girl being a friend to a boy. And she said, I'm in. That was big. Then we were trying to get the male lead, and we wanted to get Kevin Costner, who's coming out with a new movie right now, and in those days he was a young star. In fact, he ended up doing another movie, another baseball movie called Bull Durham, very good movie. And we tried to get him and we couldn't get him, so we went with Mark Harmon, and there was a big battle over Mark Harmon. Big battle with a guy, executive named David Picker at Columbia. Big battle. We don't want him. Well, you've got to have him. He's great. He's wonderful. We did a screen test, and finally they said, we'll do it. But David Picker didn't like that we were fighting for Mark Harmon. And he got us back big time. So now, the only agreement about Putnam was I had to go to directing camp. So we were tutored, and then eventually we went to Robert Redford's camp in Sundance, which was an interesting experience. But in the meantime, while we were being tutored, we went back east and we did all the scouting, the locations, picked out everything. Started doing the casting with a wonderful casting director named Bonnie Timmerman. And we had all these other roles filled out, and now the movie's rolling along. We're green-lit, everything is great. And then we have to go to Sundance to do our little camp thing, and we go there. And then David Picker remembered that he didn't like us. And he waited until the last day, and then he dropped Stealing Home from being made in the last possible day. And we got that news from Robert Redford himself, who said, how are you guys doing? And we went, great, we've been in camp all day. He said, you don't have a movie. And we looked at one another, and we were so defeated. And we realized Picker waited. He meant it. That's an enemy, ladies and gentlemen. Movies is making a war. It's a war. That was war. And we lost the battle. And we were on that plane and we had no idea what to do, but then an angel swooped in and saved us. A really smart agent named Jeff Berg took the movie over to Warner Brothers, who were dying to be in business with Jodie Foster, and said, make this movie and Jodie will make another movie. And they said, you got it. So within 4 days, we were back in the South. Is there anything by ups and downs? And we haven't even got to shooting the movie. This is just trying to get there. So we got it greenlit, we went to Philadelphia, and we began shooting the movie. And I want to show a scene I'm going to show a scene in a second, because the other thing now, here comes the challenge of making a movie, 100,000 a day, got to make your numbers. We did have one other casting problem, which was interesting. Again, staying creative. We had three ages for the lead character. One when he was Mark Harmon's age, 35. One when he was a teenager, and one when he was a small boy of 10. So we had Mark Harmon, and we had the boy, the young man who was meant to be 18 or 19, and we were looking for a boy. And there's nothing that's more disgusting than showbiz children. They're like at 9 years old, and they are too smart, and they don't do they have no real life about them. They're just always auditioning. So I couldn't stand any of the children. They didn't know how to play baseball. And I was over doing a location. I mean, you had no clue. They had no clue about baseball. And, the mothers were sitting there hovering over them, and it's just horrible. Anyway, I said, I was at a location, and I was looking at a picture. This is the house we're going to use, of this woman's son. I said, where's that boy? He said, he's in camp. I said, well, we have to go see that guy. He said, he's never done anything. He said, he doesn't act. He plays baseball. I said, exactly. He flew down, and we auditioned him. And here comes risk, big risk. Here's the moment we were making a creative choice. The choice we could do is a little nice boy who's been acting since he's 5. Or a boy that's never acted at all, but knows everything about has all the characteristics of the main character, and we took him. And Jodie Foster, all the scenes were with Jodie Foster. She'd been a child actor. And she was brilliant with him. And I'm telling you right here, he never, ever lost a line. He always remembered all his lines. He did his lines perfectly. And a lot of that was because there you have Jodie Foster, who is taking care of it and making him feel comfortable and doing all that. She was brilliant. And so that's how we got that casting. So that was another creative thing. The scene I want to show you, if we can get to it, we can start it. The real key, though, of the movie was trying to make sure that Jodie Foster was happy with new directors. And we designed a scene for the second day of the shoot to make her happy in a way that she didn't know about it. And let me tell you what the scene is. First of all, it's one camera shot. So we designed this like 6 months before we shot it. It's a one camera shot. It's one camera. It's not multiple cameras. One camera, one take. And on it, you'll see it. There are some people talking on the porch, and Jodie's in that scene. And then the camera starts to move in, and Blair Brown will come up to the pillar, and then she'll talk. And Jodie slips out of the scene while she's talking, goes up the real stairs, and gets to the window in time because, well, you'll see what happens. You'll see how it goes. This scene, though, was really designed to give her confidence in us. Because if she lost confidence in us, we wouldn't have a movie. All right? So let's see if we can find this scene. It'll take a 13 second. Is any of this vaguely interesting? Really? Because I noticed you're all quiet, and either I'm thinking, okay, I've got to now set my hair on fire to get their attention, or do something. All right, you have it? Here we go. Ready? All right, this is the scene. One shot, and I'll kind of take you through it. Oh, we need sound? Oh, we have sound. Oh, yeah, lights too. That'd be good.
No, the sound off on the last one.
Oh, the computer's muted.
Sound on the computer. Sarah, Ms. She's going to say good night. Beautiful, thank you, sir.
Remember, it's literally pouring outside. And Sam, in a panic, pulls the car over and he leaps out. And he sprints to this church. He's holding the seat of his pants.
Right.
And he disappears behind the church. And there's no toilet paper, right?
Right, and now all the people are streaming in at the church, right? And Sam yells at
Now
them,
you
"Talk
notice-
to the blood."
Notice that Blair Brown will now move over to the pillar.
Jenny yells back, "No,
And
darling."
Jodie's in the back.
Now she used some of those wet New England names. She dragged us
Now
up into
watch.
the shade.
Here comes the camera, which is on a huge crane. There, see her disappear. And now this
Your
camera.
son and I go to the piano every year. Did you know that's where we first met? I was 18. I was staying with my parents. Oh, God, he was a charmer. Good looking and funny. The best dressed man I had ever seen. We had our honeymoon out there. And every year since, we always go back.
Whoops.
Every year is just something that we always do.
All right, and now it's a crane. So now we move. Oh. Here comes Jodie. She'll move into the shot.
Let's go for a ride.
There. Okay, thanks. Believe it or not, that little scene really helped us And that was shot the second day, and that was expensive. That's a crane to come all the way in, so that's expensive to go to your line producer, and producers say, I need, $20,000 to do this crane. But it really was identifying for Jodie that, and all the other actors, that we were going to try to do something a little different than what they were, maybe used to. We weren't going to play it safe. And they appreciated that. And the crew appreciated that. And we did it early in the film because we had a 40-day shoot. You can't do that on day 23. You have to do it early because you have to build confidence. That's the teamwork. So we had a lot of challenges doing the movie. For one thing, we rented out the Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, and I was playing baseball with the crew where Mike Schmidt used to play third base, and someone hit a baseball and it came up and hit me in the nose and it broke my nose. So I had to be rushed out to the hospital while we were shooting this night scene about Mark Harmon and Harold Ramis breaking into the stadium. And then I get to the hospital, they put stuff in my nose, get back into the car. We had a cop car. We had a cop named Mike who was completely insane. And he said, Steve, have you ever, on the way we're going back to the set, he said, have you ever been in a car with a police car with a siren on? I said, no, Mike. He said, have you ever gone 90 miles an hour through the city? I said, no, Mike. Mike, I'm about to pass out because my nose is broken. Would you like it? I said, yeah, okay. So 90 miles an hour with a siren. Crazy Mike took us all the way back to the vet, got there and finished up the scene. So that was an adventuresome night. And then, of course, I went to my wife, Judith, and I asked her the hardest thing in the world. I said, darling, we don't have a lot of money. I need you to play Harold Ramis' mother. And Harold Ramis was 3 years older than Judith. And she said, you want me to do what? And I said, I want you to play the mother. There'll be wigs and it'll be wonderful. It'll be fantastic. And she said, who am I doing the scene with? And I told her the actor's name, and she said, I will not do that scene with him. I will not. Where does the scene take place? It's in a bedroom. I will only do that scene if we're in twin beds. Okay. Now I go out and say, we can't get rid of the double bed, find some twin beds. And if you look at that scene, Judith's in one bed, and the other guy's in the other bed, and that's how we managed to talk her through it. It was all about twin beds, and it worked. We had, down at the shore, we shot a scene, and all the interiors, we used the governor's mansion down on the shore, but it didn't work, and someone came up with a creative idea of creating a cabana. And he watched, it was such a brilliant idea, and we shot so many scenes out there, and it changed the whole movie. And that happened because there was a negative, not because we said, let's do a cabana. We did it because the inside of the house wasn't very good to shoot. We kept saying, what are we going to do? So a negative suddenly became a positive. The cabana became a wonderful thing, and it was built, and there it was, and it was built. So there were other challenges that went on, but basically we got through it and made it, and on budget, and we're done. And now we went through the editing process, which took about 5 months of editing the movie. And this movie wasn't in modern times now, it was cut. It was when film was cut. It wasn't digital, it was real film, and it was very time laborious. It was a very long process. And then something horrible happened. My producer over Christmas, after spending 4 months editing this film, took the entire film and edited it himself. He did his version. This is after 4 months. This is my producer. So now he's an enemy. Now I got war with people within my group. So I had to go back and spend 3 months getting every shot back into the movie. And he never owned it. He blamed it. He said, I didn't do it. Your editor did it. Editors don't do that. They do what they're told. That's not what they do. But we got it done. And then I had to get notes from Warner Brothers, and that was battle. Battle. They come in with 30, 40 notes to change things. And you got to know when you stick up and when you say okay, and where do you give, what do you take. War. Period. I went in, I was not friendly. I kept saying, you think this is a movie? This is a whole movie for me. I got to show this to my family. That's what I used to say to them. They would want to point, and I go, I can't do that. Why? Because I have to show it to my family. Battle, battle. And then finally it came out. So all the way back when that script was written back in the cafes, we finally had it done, and it finally got a release date, and it came out in August of 1987 or 8, I guess, 8. And it didn't go. It wasn't successful. It didn't come out as a success. You know how disappointing that was? After all that time, you're just broken. You're tired. You fought the battles, and then you come out and the public don't like it. And those were tough. You know, and again, I know Judy was there, you know, the people you care about, that's when family and all that really matter. But then I learned a wonderful lesson about film. Film has its own life. While it didn't open well that weekend, which was fine, Stealing Home found an audience. It has continued to find an audience. I continue to get little tiny residual checks. And when I say tiny, I mean tiny. Okay, I'm not going to give you numbers, but I think in terms of pennies. All right. And it found a life. And even up to like 3 years ago, it was on HBO in the summer. Movies find audiences. They're not like plays that open and close. And Stealing Home has existed and continues to exist in all seriousness. And now it's funny, if you get one of those little tiny residual checks, you find out it's playing in Peru, Malaysia, Stealing Home in Malaysia. So I always think about the people keeping track of that. Who keeps track of where these movies are all playing? But someone does, thank God. And so at the end of it, you know, that's what I leave you. I leave you with that this is a process about teamwork. It's about making your bravest choice you can sometimes make, thinking out of the box. And for me, it always comes back to my dream life, because that's really where I taught to trust the creative process. So when I made some of those decisions, I never really worried about it, because I believed they were right, because I kind of had this inner world going that was saying, you know, this is fine, don't worry, it'll work out. So that's it. So here we are. Oh, we have one scene. I do want to show you one scene that I think will interest you. This was a big problem. We had a scene that was shot during the day, and then it was meant to finish in the day, and it went into the night. And the people that own the house said, you have to get out by 3 o'clock in the morning. And I went to the cinematographer and I said, I don't know what we're going to do. It's midnight, you know, the birds and the sun, and it's meant to be the sun is shining. He said, let me light it. And this is the scene. What you're about to watch was shot at 2 o'clock in the morning. And you tell me if it doesn't look like it's 11 o'clock in the morning. This is the scene we call Day for Night.
Hi, Hank.
Billy?
Can I talk to you?
Yeah, come on.
Hank was upstairs getting Grace.
This is 2 o'clock in the morning.
I was about to give Katie's ashes back to her parents. The last place she wanted to go.
All they did was drag this poor horse up to this platform, and they pushed him off into a cold tank of water. Everybody laughed and they clapped. They thought it was really funny. I cried. I thought it was mean. But don't. drift with the clouds. And at night, the moon full and the sea wild. I'd meet my lover high on a cliff, and we'd swoop down into the ocean and swim all the way and touch the bottom, up through the dark water and break the surface. And then we'd fly to Jamaica for pina coladas. Yeah, I wish I could do that.
Hello, Billy.
Great. Thank you. Two things on that I just want to say one more thing about Jodie Foster, how amazing. If you watch that scene, she did a ballet move into that scene. She is so smart that she came to me the first day of shooting and said, do you mind if in this first scene I'm practicing ballet? And I had no idea what she was talking about. This was 20 days before we shot that scene. And I said, yeah, okay. And she did that because she had already thought out the move she wanted to make into that speech. She had already figured out she wanted to do a ballet something. So in the first scene you meet her, she's practicing ballet stuff so that we will believe that she's a ballet student. That's, smart, is what I'll say. In a few minutes we have, if there are any questions or anything I can answer about film or this film or anything, feel free to raise your hand. Anybody? Yeah.
What's your favorite film that you haven't made or directed?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, you mean movies that I've seen other people make?
Yeah.
I love all the Batman movies by Chris Nolan. I like some foreign film. There's a movie that we love called Great Beauty. It's a foreign film, Italian film, and it's brilliant. I love all genres. I go to the movies all the time. Comedies. In the day way back when, Woody Allen was an important person. I'm always amazed by the premises of his movies. In fact, they were important movies. So many. But you know what's good is I never get threatened by good movies. I get threatened by bad movies. When I see a bad movie, it makes me mad because I know how hard it is to get them made, and that a bad movie got through annoys me. When I see a great movie get through, I'm delighted because I know, like, anyone see The Revenant last year? If you haven't seen The Revenant, you've seen it? It's rough, but it's filmmaking. It's great filmmaking. I'm not saying it's a great story, but it's great filmmaking. When you see something like that, you're inspired. Questions? Someone else? Yeah.
This is for both you and Judith. What was your favorite movie that you made while here at Flair? You made a lot of movies.
I mean, that we actually did.
Yeah. Can you share? I mean, just maybe.
Yeah, well, that was even a longer process. I wrote a movie when I was here called Buzzkill with Darrell Hammond, and that was 7 years in the making.
I was thinking about the Blair.
Oh, the Blair movies.
Yeah, with the students.
We made movies here with the students, and one of the reasons I love this school is that when we first came here, we said, we'll do some movies. And what makes it so great is it was a mixture of the students with faculty. And we did a lot of kind of fun
Tina the Goddaughter.
Tina the Goddaughter, which is the premise was a student who was related to the Godfather was now running Annie Hall. Like she was in the, a Godfather.
And youngest headmaster.
Youngest headmaster was fun. The first movie almost cost us a marriage. It was like we had no idea what we were doing. And it was 50 minutes. And what was it called? Gus Grigsby, about a kid who came to look at a school, like, coming back, like he's applied. And he gets in with the wrong guys. And the one scene we had him in with your job, Brian, with Dave Lowe. And he's being punished. And he keeps saying, I'm just visiting. I actually don't attend here. I'm thinking of coming here. I'm not, no, it doesn't matter. You're in contact Paul. Dave Lowe. We had I don't remember, we had these were afternoon projects, but we had so much fun because, and I think it's, again, a great community thing, everyone participated. And then, Brian, you were here, and you know how people, we asked you to do different things, and nobody ever said no. No faculty member said, I'm not doing that, or that's going to embarrass me, or doing. And so I think the great joy of that was, just that it was all mixture.
I have to say also the fake admissions video.
Yeah.
That featured Mason Hall, the first nude film.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. You were not in Doc Sayers. Doc Sayers was in a lot of them.
All these movies are in the library.
Yeah, they're online. But it was, it's all good. Anything else? Anyone else have any other questions about film, or does anyone out there, the students, have interest in going into film?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah,
Good.
cool.
Yeah. And what I say, film schools have never been more popular than they are right now. But I think it's hard to, of course every generation says the same thing. They always say, I don't know, I would have gotten it. But on the other hand, what's great about people that do have an interest is you can make your own movies now. You really can. I mean, for nothing. You have the equipment and the editing on these machines, the stuff like that's going to go into the makerspace and places like that are going to be incredible. What you can do that you couldn't do when we were, in my day, you had to show a script. Well, now you can show a completed 10-minute short film. That's kind of huge. So it's a kind of a great, from a technological point of view, it's a great time if you are interested in doing film. All right, well, yeah.
Go through a few sentences of what actually happened throughout the film. I don't know the story.
All right, so the idea of the story was that a baseball player named Billy Wyatt, Mark Harmon, quit the game after his father died when he was 16, when Mark was 16. And he quit the game, and he was headed for a major league career. And he quit on himself. And we pick up the movie at the time where he's living somewhere in New Jersey, and he's kind of a loser. And he gets a call from his mother to say that his great friend, Jodie Foster, has died, and she is, in her will, has made him responsible for her ashes, which he hates. She says, come home, you have to deal with these ashes. That's why that scene you saw where he's holding the ashes. And the movie is about that when Mark, the Billy Wyatt character, can figure out what to do with her ashes, he figures out how to get his own life back in order. So it's a movie where she had such impact when she was alive, and she's still having big impact when she's no longer alive. And that scene there was critical because he was bringing the ashes back to her parents, and he knew that that's the last place that she would want. That's why she gave him the ashes. But he gave up, he quit again. And he was about to, he was going to hand them back, and then he saw the sign, he saw the sheet, and he went over and he remembered that that speech she gave. And that's what he does. He goes and takes the ashes and spreads them on birds, and then the birds fly away. And then when she does, he comes back to playing baseball, even though it's minor league. So it's a kind of a spirit movie that way. And it's about, how we can save one another in different ways. And so it has a happy ending, which was good, because it was kind of a depressing beginning. So it kind of all worked out. All right, well, I guess if there's nothing else, then, I think.
We'll come up front.
Yeah, I'll be hanging around a little bit. If you do have, interest in any of it, it's a fascinating world, but, I'm glad I don't have to do it on a day-to-day. It's very challenging. It really takes a lot out of you. But the beauty, again, is they last forever. These movies, they go on, and that's a good thing. Thank you.